Hey guys, welcome back to Crazy Karen Neighbor Stories. Imagine living off-grid in Alaska, finally solving your water problems with an expensive well, and then having your entitled neighbor point a loaded gun at your face because you won't let her use it. The crazy part? That was just the beginning of this nightmare. Let's dive right into the video. The title story starts like this. My family and I live on a homestead in Alaska that is off the grid. Despite what some people think, it is not always snowing and freezing cold here, so we are able to grow crops in the warmer times and store them during the cold winter. We live in a decently sized cabin that I built myself and harness solar energy to help things run so we can have lights and heat. It is not too uncommon out here for people to have these off-grid homesteads either, so all of my neighbors are pretty much living a similar life to me. It's the kind of area where you really need to know how to work hard and take care of yourself, or you might think about moving to a different place in the country. The biggest issue I had for a while was that water was becoming a big pain. So the local spring that we are allowed to take from is about 3 miles away, and the path is not really fit for cars. So we had to take these huge jugs and go walk back and forth. We tried to only do it once a week, but if we ran out, it basically used an entire afternoon of our time. A lot of people do this though, so it wasn't just us, and it was something that you get used to. I was careful with our money and was able to invest in a well. These things are not cheap because you need to hire these guys and they dig for a few days, anywhere to 200 feet down in order to get a water source. Well, the good news is that it means that we have access to water right on our property. Obviously, we are still careful with how much we use because a well can dry up. Our neighbor does not own a well, and she started to get angry once she saw that we had one. She did not really live alone since her kids were on the property, but they were all in their late teens or early 20s and built their own cabins on the property. I also did not see them during all this, so they basically did not exist for this story. She saw our well and right away came over to start complaining about water source issues. She was telling us that it was so hard for her to get water and that we were all strong looking and really did not need to invest in a well. She came off with this air of entitlement as if I should have spent the money getting a well on her property instead and kept walking for my water. I was nice and asked if she needed help once a week carrying her water. It would have negated me saving time, but I tend to do that for people. She did not want that though, and said that she didn't like the idea of going to the spring and having to use the same water as everybody else. She said it felt dirty and that she deserved better. I know that people are used to entitlement, but here it is not really common because of our lifestyles. I had no idea how to react to her aside from just awkwardly staring and smiling. She was telling me a story about how she used to have some kind of pump, but it failed and she thought it was dumb for her to walk for water. Finally, she came out and said that she wanted access to our well. She didn't ask for it either, but instead said that since we got one, we had to share with her, and that nobody is allowed to hoard water here and claim it for themselves. I think she was referring to the fact that at the free spring, you are not allowed to take over a certain amount, so that there is enough for everybody and it doesn't cause any problems. The well is private though, and I don't have to share it with anybody if I don't want to. Also, it was expensive to build, plus expensive for upkeep, so nothing ends up freezing in the colder month. I was nice about it, but firm when I explained that we were not gonna share the well, especially since she didn't want to use it once or for a week to get her own thing fixed. She wanted constant access to it, and I even tried explaining that it would drain twice as fast, and I could not allow that to happen. My family had a plan for this well, and it would not work if somebody like my neighbor wanted to use it too. She would probably take away way more than she needed and waste it anyway, based solely on how she acted when we saw her. Hearing the word no and somebody sticking to it must have sent her brain into some kind of fit. She got red in the face and started screaming that we were selfish and didn't know or care about anybody else. That the people here were all supposed to be like one huge family and support each other. It is true that most of us are always willing to lend a hand and help out. To be honest, there's a big difference though between helping somebody and sharing an expensive water supply. If somebody wanted help fixing their cabin or picking crops before they went bad, I would not mind. But I also knew that I would be given something as a thanks that would help me. This neighbor just wanted to be a leech on me, and if you let people do that out here, it will make just surviving even harder. I was expecting at this point for her to rage a bit more and then just go back home. While she was still raging and cursing at me, she also pulled out a handgun and pointed it at me. Guns here are extremely common things, seeing one didn't surprise me, and honestly a handgun was small compared to what I'm used to seeing people have out here. Still, it being pointed at me was not fun, and I tried my best to de-escalate the situation. I told her to calm down and that she should put the gun away before anything bad happened. The entire time I was slowly backing up closer to my cabin. I was trying to just keep her talking at this point and asked what ended up happening to her pump. I was not listening to her answer, or even if she was answering, I just wanted to get to my door. I did, and the final thing she said before I opened and got in was something I wish I didn't hear. She flat out told me that she was going to have the well, even if it meant killing me and my entire family to get it. I locked the door behind me, but she was still out there with the gun and banging on my door. Why she didn't take that golden opportunity to take water if she needed it so badly, I will never know. I needed to call for help from the state troopers. We didn't have a phone obviously, but what we did have was a satellite phone. With that I was able to get a call through and tell them that I had an emergency and needed help. I'm sure in cities or even suburbs, troopers could be there really fast. Here, because they are not close, it can take a bit more time. 15 minutes later, they arrived. And my neighbor had thankfully already given up and left my property to go back to her own. Maybe she heard me through my door calling the troopers and wanted to get out there. During that 15 minutes though, I did hear a gunshot, so she clearly had shot at something, but I knew it was not my house. I found out later that she shot at the pump on my well, hoping to break it, I guess. But there was no damage when I went later and checked it out thankfully, so the troopers arrived and I told them the entire story. They even told me that I was far from the first person to have a well dispute turn ugly and need intervention. I'm guessing most of those revolve around two people both thinking the well is on their property and not pure entitlement. After I gave my statement, they went to speak to my neighbor and she started to lie through her teeth to them. She wanted to come off as a frail woman that was minding her own business when I started yelling at her. She told them that she didn't care about my well and that she didn't even own a gun. The issue was that she had let them into her home and they found the gun just sitting out in the open. So they did not need a warrant, I guess, since it was just visible to them. According to them, it had clearly been recently fired and her lying about owning it made her entire story seem fake and up for questioning. They also found where she had tried and failed to shoot and destroy my well. Finding the casing that of course matched her gun, now she was in some real trouble and was facing serious charges based on what she actually did. She was charged with 4th-degree assault, which was only a misdemeanor, but that was not everything. She then also got charged for misconduct with a weapon for when she tried to shoot my well, since it was dangerous and could have hurt somebody even if it did not damage my property. She also trespassed on my private property, which is kind of funny because a lot of us do that all the time just to move around from one place to another, and most of the time nobody cares. The big thing was that she got in trouble for threatening to kill my entire family with a gun. I was able to get a civil order of protection against her, meaning that she could not come near me or on my property anymore. And I did not think she would pull another stunt, but better safe than sorry. I also knew that all of this cost her a ton of money in legal fees. It was clear that she was now in some serious trouble financially, and if it was not for her children, I don't know if she would have even been able to keep her property. So yeah, despite being our neighbor, we don't really see her anymore. The lands we own are not small though, so avoiding people is already easy. I guess it is even easier knowing that your neighbor has a protective order against you. And the next one is an absolutely insane story about a Karen tenant from hell that feels entitled to owning the entire house that she is renting just because she is paying rent. Trust me, you don't want to miss this one. So backstory, my parents used to own a house on a big land. When my older siblings went away for college, the house felt too big for our needs, so my parents decided to sell the house, but not all the land. They built a smaller house on the part of the land they didn't sell, and a few years after, we moved to a city 2 hours away and kept the house as a place to go during the summer. My parents decided to rent the house as it was well located and had a really nice view. Renting it out meant that they could use the money towards their mortgage and taxes. Enter our Karen. Karen and her boyfriend rented the place so she could be closer to her work. From the start, my dad made it clear the place was for rent and my parents planned on living in that house after retiring. At that time, both of them planned to work for at least another 20+ years. They would, of course, notify Karen in advance when they wanted to take back the house so she would have plenty of time to find a new place. In return, they asked that she notify them in advance should she wish to move out so they could find a new renter. The lease also stated that my parents would have some of their things in a locked storage in the basement as well as in a shed on the property, and that they would always call Karen before dropping by to get something out of the storage, which was in the basement and connected by the garage, so they would not even disturb Karen. For a few years, Karen was an okay renter. She paid the rent through a check each month. She smoked inside and did not take care of the land, but my dad did not make a fuss about it. Real trouble started after around 12 years. Every few months, Karen's checks would bounce back, my dad would call her to ask about it, and Karen would profusely apologize and rectify the situation. Then it became every other month, and until it was every month, and finally, my dad had enough and called her about the lease and the rent. During the call, Karen argued that since she had been paying rent for the past 12 years, the house was now hers. My dad was shocked since that came out of nowhere. He tried to explain to her that she was renting the place like they had agreed on since the beginning. Karen went on a Karen fit about how she had paid so much over the years and she was the one living there and taking care of the place, which she was not at all, and therefore it should be hers. She threatened to take my dad to court. Now, where I live, there are many laws which protect the renter, and it can be a real bitch to deal with when you have nasty renters, so my dad hired a lawyer to make sure everything was in order. After a meeting with Karen where the lawyer was present, she realized she didn't have much of a case since all the paperwork concerning the house was at my dad's name and the original lease clearly stated that it was just a rental. My dad offered her to stop renting should she wish to after the whole debacle, but she wanted to stay in the house. He made her sign a new lease where it stated, again, that this was a rental and that she should not pay or cause trouble again. My dad would give her the shortest possible notice of eviction allowed by the law. Karen is still renting the house after almost 20 years though. My parents are not close to retiring yet. Do hope it won't turn into a crap show when they decide to take back the house. Edit the question, why did your dad let her sign a new lease? This comes up a lot in the comments, and I will say what I answered throughout the comments, so I don't have the slightest clue why he would do that. As I was a kid much younger when this happened, I wasn't kept in the loop much. It was also not the reaction I would expect my dad to have, since he is respectful to others and expects the same in return. Second, I do know the legal actions that he took when she threatened to take him to court did protect himself and many future problems that might arise. I do appreciate all the concern and the advice though, although I do think my dad had a good reason to keep her as a tenant from hell after everything that went down. Relevant comments. Comment number 1, I would have never let her stay. Your dad is just asking for trouble when he wants to move her out. She will obviously fight it and carry it out as long as she can until she gets physically removed and probably will destroy the inside of the house. She already showed what type of person she is, and he should have just continued with the eviction process to get her out of the house. And yeah guys, if you would be OP's dad, how would you have handled this? I think OP's dad is way too soft here. This is clearly a Karen tenant from hell, and I don't think this will end well. Update. The timeline. Since the beginning there was a mutual agreement between Karen and my parents that they would both give a 6-month notice before she moved out, or my parents would like to take back the house. Then the last week of June, my dad received a phone call from a representative of Karen. Due to financial circumstances, she was giving a month's notice before moving out. My parents were surprised by the short notice but did not really mind it, as they were looking forward to taking back the place. Last week, July, Karen was set to move out, but she asked for a week extension as she could not find anybody to help her move. My parents agreed. She was now set to move out by August the 3rd. Now August the 4th, with the car all loaded up with essentials, dinnerware and cutlery, small furniture, etc., we left for our first trip to the house. The plan was to look at the state of the place, clean a little bit and take measurements for the remodeling my parents are planning. As we get to the place, we notice a small sign in the driveway to advertise for a garage sale at the house. We figured she forgot to take it down, but we were wrong. As we get to the house, we can see boxes and furniture through the windows. Cue the shocked Pikachu face as she answered the door. It turns out she had not moved yet and meant to call my dad to let him know, but of course she never did. She clearly did not expect us to drop by so soon after her supposed moving date. My parents were both extremely pissed at her, but they gave her an additional week and expectations of payments for the weeks she overstayed. Then August 18th, my parents received the confirmation that she left the week she was supposed to. They had a neighbor drop by to make sure her things were really gone, but we didn't have time to make the trip until a week after. So then, we found the place in a much better shape than we expected. Of course, it's not in perfect condition, as it clearly has the wear and tear of a place that has been lived in for years. It needs a good cleanup, some fresh paint in most of the rooms, and a lot of work on the land. There's also plans of remodeling a bit to make an additional room on the first floor, so my parents don't have to go up the stairs all the time. Turning a new leaf over, so this ends this whole chapter. My parents got the summer house back years before they expected, and although the renter was difficult until the end, she mostly went away without all the trouble we all expected. My parents are seriously happy to take back the place and are looking forward to all the projects they have for it. They've been almost every week there to clean and sort through the things we had stored. My dad did a fresh paint of coat in some of the rooms, and they are looking for furniture. My brother went once and started to clear up some of the trees to get back the awesome view we used to have from the kitchen. My dad bought an old lawn tractor to help with the yard work and is excited like a little boy with a new shiny toy. We'd like to get the place cleaned and ready to hopefully spend Christmas camping there, as we most likely won't have a lot of furniture yet. Additional info from OP regarding the house being livable after Karen moved out. OP said, "Where I live, you leave when your lease is over. She ended the lease, she stopped paying. It's natural to expect that she had vacated the premises. My parents were not the ones responsible to check that she was gone. What would have happened if the place had been rented to someone else? Would that new renter have to find other accommodations just because Karen decided to overstay?" My original post stated that Karen used to smoke inside and didn't take care of the land. We thought we would have to make massive renovations to bring back the house to what it was. Instead, we found the place with the wear and tear of being rented for decades, which is totally normal and like it hadn't been lived in for a couple of months, much like when we'd go back after not going since the previous summer. We never expected the place to be in perfect condition. Maybe my post isn't expressed as clearly. English is not my first language. And the next one is an amazing malicious compliance story. And by the way, if you ever had any people as horrible as Brenda in your neighborhood, then I would love to hear your story in the comments. And while you're at it, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you so much. So for this story you need to know that I'm the kind of person who will go a great distance for a good laugh, as you will see below. I love this story and we tell it every once in a while, even though it has been more than 20 years already. So I live in the US and I own an IT support company. Many years ago I used a cell phone company named Nextel. They had this great push-to-talk feature that turned your phone into a walkie-talkie, which was perfect for communicating with coworkers in my IT work. However, their customer service was a nightmare. Anytime I needed to contact them, it would take at least 30 to 40 minutes on hold. Eventually, I had to switch to a cheaper service, which meant getting a new number. Now, you can port your number to a new carrier, but back then you had to change numbers if you switched carriers. So I cancelled all the phones on our plan except for mine, which I downgraded to an emergency plan costing about $10 a month. I left the old phone plugged in at my office and set my voicemail message to instruct callers of my new number. The phone just sat next to my desk on a shelf plugged into a charger so that I could see if anyone called. I could also hear the phone make a sound when it disconnected from the cellular network and then a different sound when it connected to the cellular network. It connected and disconnected constantly there in my office. I would estimate that it only stayed connected to the network about 50% of the time. After 6 months, I decided to cancel it. I had to wait on hold for the customary 30 to 40 minutes just to cancel my service. After telling the service rep that I was always dropping off the network and that I had already switched services, they verified the service problems on my account and cancelled my entire plan. I was not under any contract at the time, so there was no problem cancelling my service with Nextel. As expected, I got my final bill. It was somewhere around $10, since that was my monthly plan, just the emergency plan, and I didn't make any phone calls, so I paid the bill and was happy to be done with that carrier. Then the next month I got a bill for 4 cents. Yes, just 4 cents. I figured it was a clerical error and ignored it, expecting them to write it off. But no, each month another bill for 4 cents arrived. I was incredulous. I checked the postmark and saw that the postage to send me the bill was costing them 10 times more than the bill itself. And they kept sending the bill every month. I could have paid the bill, but it seemed ridiculous to write a check for 4 cents and spend more on a stamp. After 6 months I finally had enough and decided on some very petty malicious compliance. I decided to invest the 40 minutes on hold to call Nextel to work this out. By golly, if they wanted my 4 cents, I would give them my 4 cents. I planned to wait on hold for 40 minutes and pay the 4 cents with a credit card, knowing it would cost them even more in fees. I told my wife about my plan, thinking it was the perfect malicious compliance story. But my wife, the true master of malicious compliance, suggested an even better idea. Call and ask if I could make payments on the 4 cents, splitting it into 2 payments on my credit card. Oh my god, I was in the presence of malicious royalty. So I called and waited on hold for 40 to 45 minutes and finally got through to a representative. The representative sounded like one of those airport terminal attendants who act like they are checking your reservations, but instead they are writing a Stephen King-length novel. I could hear the clickety-clackety sound of the keyboard. The female representative was constantly typing as I explained that I had cancelled my service, but I kept getting the final bill and proposed making payments. The representative, typing away, said that she would look up my account. As she typed away at her keyboard, I explained that I had gotten the final bill and that I would like to set up a payment plan to take care of the outstanding balance. I told her that I would like to pay half on my credit card today and pay the remaining half the following month. She was agreeing with me and typing away when suddenly she stopped typing and went quiet. "Sir," she said. "Yes," I replied. "Are you aware of the balance amount?" "Yes," I said. 4 cents? She said. "Yes," I said. "I figured that you really wanted that 4 cents because you keep spending all this postage to send me bills each month, so I'm just calling you to take care of it." After a brief silence, I heard the clickety-clack of the keyboard again, and she said that I would not have to worry about the balance because she was writing it off. I insisted on giving my credit card for the first half of the payment, but she firmly dismissed it and assured me that I would not get any more bills. My wife's suggestion turned a simple prank into a masterpiece of malicious compliance. I may be good at it, but my wife is on another level. And you really have to want to do malicious compliance to wait on hold for 40 minutes. And by the way, although I have fond memories of this story, my wife and I both laugh at the other, possibly better options of dealing with the situation. So, first a couple of commenters stated that I was stupid for waiting on the phone for 40 minutes to do this. Yes, no argument there, but my first line above states that I'll go a great distance for a laugh. However, no customer service reps were injured in this exercise. The conversation only took a couple minutes. I saved the company money because they fixed their stupid error. They stopped spending more on postage than the actual bill, and I was working in my office while I was on hold. So a little time traded for a funny story. Second, some people had great ideas for other possibilities. Most suggested paying slightly more than the 4 cents so that Nextel would have to deal with the refund. Then Nextel would constantly have to send me statements in the mail. I liked this one too, and if Nextel ever sent the refund check, I would not cash it. I know in my own business that when a customer writes a check for a penny off, it causes me at least 5 minutes to fix. Sometimes it even takes a little longer, so this option appeals to me too. And before we end the video, let's read one satisfying story from malicious compliance. It is titled, "Hire her no matter what." As you wish. So I'm part of a small hiring team at my workplace and I take my position very seriously. Some time ago, we were looking to fill a key role that required someone sharp, organized and ready to work under pressure. We had a solid short list after several interviews and then my department supervisor pulled me aside. He told me flat out to hire one candidate in particular, not because he was the best fit, but because he wanted me to. I later heard through office rumors that she was an almost girlfriend and basically someone he had a thing for and was trying to impress. He said I should, but just make it work and he will take the heat if needed. I refused at first, showing him her results of the interview. She was one of the least ranked. She was late to the interview, vague answers, couldn't explain basic industry terms, but he wouldn't listen and said it was a direct order. So yeah, I did exactly what he asked. I hired her, gave her all the support I could, even offered extra onboarding help, and within a month she accidentally sent a confidential client file to the wrong company. Then she once approved a purchase order for 10 times the budgeted amount because she obviously didn't read all those numbers. It was from one wrong to another. We lost a major client over the email slip, another one pulled back on their contract due to delays on her end, and when upper management started asking questions, my manager tried to dodge responsibility. But HR already had the hiring records. I made sure all instructions, including his, were documented, which was intentionally in case a situation like this came up, and it did. He was reassigned within the quarter. She quietly disappeared not long after. It turns out, hiring your crush is not as cute when the company starts bleeding money. And yeah guys, thank you for watching. I will see you again tomorrow.